Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday morning press conference after our Tuesday City Council meetings. This morning, I want to talk about a few things, but besides what went on last night at the meeting, one thing that I continue to be very concerned about within the city, and it's not just in our city. I think it's all over the state, and it's probably all over the nation, but we have a major litter problem in Columbus. We are trying to do things from the city standpoint to encourage folks to put the right things on the street for pickup that falls within the guidelines of what the city can and cannot pick up. But it's also just within I was outside a few minutes ago picking up bags and stuff in front of City Hall. And I watch people walk down the street every day and they walk right past litter. I think we're beginning to become immune to seeing it everywhere. On Monday morning, before I came into work, I went into and I won't call them out, but to a business on 45 that probably everybody in here frequents on a regular basis. And when I drove into the parking lot, it was filled with cans, bottles, cups, and as I was walking in the door, I had to step over a decapitated bird, and then there was a hairbrush lying there beside it. And we have tourists in town too. And so when I went in and made my purchase and asked who was in charge of their parking lot, the person said he didn't know. And I said, I told him what I had stepped over as a customer. I'm not sure he knew who I was. I wasn't trying to be forceful as mayor or anything. I was just talking as a citizen. And he said, I just came in. I didn't notice any of that. I'll go back and take a look. We have, as y'all probably heard in the council meetings, Ms. James and others have been very proactive in the community trying to get people to keep their parking lots and businesses clean. And I know in some cases there's going to be litter. And again, it's not just Columbus. I see it everywhere. When I drive over to Starkville, when I go to Tupelo, when I drove all the way to Ocean Springs, I saw it all along the way. But we had made a commitment early on that we were going to try to set an example in Columbus. And we've had groups over time with Keep Columbus Beautiful and recently formed Pick It Up Possum Town volunteer group who is working closely with Keep Columbus Beautiful, have been trying to have events where we meet and clean up. We have had just spontaneous pickups. I go out periodically and try to do it. It's a great way to exercise, move around, but I'm just really becoming disturbed. And then I saw somebody the other day just take their receipt and throw it in the parking lot. It was all I could do not to jump out of my car and say, what are you doing? So when I was growing up, and I mentioned this many times before, we had a program in the schools with the litter bug would come in and talk to us about litter. So I've always had an adversity seeing people throw litter on the ground. And even as a child, I was proactive in trying to make sure it's cleaned up. So we've been talking about going back into the schools and that's where we came up with the Mayor Possum puppet that I go around with, and Don't Be a Litter Critter, kind of a catchy campaign. Well, Mother Goose and I are teaming up. We're going to have our first rehearsal Friday to go into the schools with this Don't Be a Litter Critter, Pick It Up Possum Town campaign. What we're hoping is, by starting with the younger ages, and we're probably going to be the first through third graders at first, is to try to make them mindful of this at a young age so they carry it with them over time, because I truly believe education is the way to solve a lot of these issues. And hopefully they will encourage their parents. We're going to try to do events around the farmers market and stuff where we're encouraging to do this. There's been a lot of stuff going on, but I really want to be more proactive and more consistent. And I may even start going around in the community and standing in areas and going live on Facebook and say, this is unacceptable. Our COO, Jamie Garrett, has been very aggressive in trying to help us get cameras in parts of the city where people have chosen to use them as dumping grounds. Now, some of the information I understand is confusing, because there have been times within the city when we would pick up, furniture and stuff like that after tornadoes and things like that. And we have to go out, unfortunately, because it gets so bad, and we do it. And then when we do it, people assume, well, we did it for them, we'll do it for others. So you know, after going in that store the other day and having to step over a decapitated bird and watching several people do it before I did, and they didn't even seem to notice it, I just thought, you know, okay, we got to be more aggressive. So we're going to get more aggressive with fines if we can catch folks with them. And so I want to thank all the members of the Keep Columbus Beautiful who have been meeting, the folks with Pick It Up Possum Town. I understand we've got a list of volunteers of a couple of hundred names they've collected over time. And when we do these big cleanups, those are really tough to organize, I mean, to do those on a regular basis. But what we hope to do is just to get people spontaneously. We recognized a lady, sweet lady in her neighborhood. Do you remember? Mary Perry. Councilwoman Stewart recognized her in her neighborhood. For years, she's been keeping the street in her neighborhood cleaned and checking on her neighbors when they needed anything, and taking pride in her community. We need to encourage more people to do this. What I'm sad to say is most of the people that we've recognized, Jamie, and gone out to see are elderly. You know, so you probably have seen me walking around with my picker-upper, and I've had people contact me and say we need more trash cans downtown. Well, we do, but I hope people will use them once we get them. So here's the mayor being on his soapbox a little bit this morning. We've got tourists that will be in here that started last weekend. The current event, Historic Homes, I think ends this weekend, and then there's a week that we have off, and then the Preservation Society of Columbus is starting their tour of homes. So I'm hoping people will be mindful of the fact that it's not only pleasing to the eye when your community is clean, but it's also safer and more sanitary. I mean, nobody wants to see your food boxes, and literally, when I have picked up stuff, even just around the school up here, some of the stuff is disgusting that I find on the side of the road. Take that stuff home and put it in your own trash can. Nobody else wants to see it out on the side of the road. So I'm just asking that people take some responsibility here. We get our guys from Public Works out there picking up on the highways and stuff, and they work hard and get it. And I mean, I can drive by a day later and there's stuff right back out there. Some of it is blowing out of the back of your trucks. I see you going by in your trucks. Get your stuff out of the back of your truck, put it in a trash can, or at least close your tailgate. And the businesses in Columbus, monitor your parking lots. I know that sometimes people come in there in the evenings and when you're not there, but don't just drive in and go in. Have somebody go out there and pick up a can or two. It makes a difference. So anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox on that, but we'll be reaching out to the schools soon about setting up times. We're coming up on Earth Day in April, so we're going to try to be aggressive between now and Earth Day and getting some of these programs started in the school. I'm excited about working with Mother Goose. She's always fun. We even have a song in here we're going to sing. So anyway, that's that. And I do want to mention again, thank you to the homeowners and the members of the Preservation Society, the two different groups we have, Historic Homes and the Preservation Society of Columbus. These are people who live here that are volunteering to open their homes and plan these events. They're getting assistance from the Columbus Visitors Bureau, and I thank them for their hard work in trying to help them advertise these events and make sure people are able to get tickets and stuff. These kinds of things have a real impact on our economy. It brings visitors to the city who spend money, which helps with our budgeting. I want to just make sure that these homeowners and volunteers with these groups are being thanked properly, because it's a lot of work they put into this. I'm extremely happy with what the Preservation Society is doing too, because it's a very inclusive group that is doing trying to tell the whole history and story of Columbus. I think that's important. We do have the folks who have the historical homes are very proud of the homes, the architecture of the homes, and we're unique in Columbus. The only other city that has the number of antebellum homes that we have is Natchez, so there is a story to tell there as well. But I'm just glad to see the progress that the city has in recognizing and looking at a wide range of history that includes all of our citizens. And so I'm encouraging them to keep doing that. And thank you to the CVB board and Nancy and her staff for working with these two groups to make sure that we're carrying these out in a positive manner. And then also, again, everybody remember, let's pick up our trash. We will have more too coming in the not too distant future on our, did we open our bids yet? We haven't. Have we have? Okay, and so when are we gonna have an announcement on that? Have we planned for our litter? If we're going, what we're gonna do?
I'm putting together a spreadsheet.
Okay.
With proposals now.
So we're probably looking in the next week or so? Yeah, that's, because I know that there's still some concerns out there about our litter, our picking up our trash. City outsources that. We have just taken bids on looking at other options for that possibly. The group that we're working with now, Golden Triangle Waste, also put in a bid. I also saw recently where there's going to be an increase in the fees that they're charging. I think an 8% increase, something to that effect. Yeah, 8.5%. So the cost that we're having with our current litter pickup is going to increase. And so, but again, they have also put in a bid to do this, so we'll be looking at that closely. I know there's still a lot of concern about that, and we were trying to come up with a way that we offer the best services to our citizens for the best price. We're also looking at what we're doing in our recycling. If you see some of our recycling bins around town, they're quite questionable. What is going in them and what's all around them, and we pay about $8,000 a month for some of those services that we have around the city. So we're very serious about getting this right. Any way we can do to encourage people to recycle and all those things, we're going to continue to move forward on that. I did not, believe it or not, I did not bring the agenda from last night. We had a fairly, do you have it, Jim? Thank you. We had a fairly quick meeting last night for council standards. We did not have anything in the executive session, and nothing major on any of the topics from discussion last night that I can remember. If y'all have something, please, send a question in through Joe or the media that's here can ask me. One of the things that I know that there was some questions about was the oversight committee for the police department. There were several people who spoke, Ms. Harris and several others who spoke on their interest in continuing to have an oversight committee. I announced last night that we had been looking in our minutes to see when the group was formed and what the criteria was, and we've not been able to find those in the minutes from where the council created it. However, I do have copies of some of the meetings that they had while they were formed, and the recommendations that they mentioned last night that happened after the Ricky Ball incident. On this recommendation sheet that they gave to the city and the police department about the use of body cameras, it says at the bottom that the board, the oversight or overview committee, they changed the name from oversight to overview, would consist of the mayor, 2 or 3 city council members, and 6 citizens, at least 1 from each ward, and a quorum to meet may consist of 5 members. So what we're doing is going back and looking, because I think some of the members did change from its original, when it was originally formed. The last minutes from the meeting that they had was in, that I have a copy of right now, and I think this is the last one, is November the 7th, 2019. It says in this one that COO Armstrong suggested that the committee become an ad hoc committee meeting on an as-needed basis. He said he spoke to Mayor Smith, Chairman James, and Chief Shelton regarding this matter, and all were in favor. It was motioned that the CPD Overview Committee exist as an ad hoc committee. By unanimous vote, it was approved. Joe Dillon demonstrated the C-Clicks Fix website to the committee. Citizens can use this website to report various concerns such as down stop signs, street lights not working, drainage problems, tree limbs in the street, and so forth. They still do that. He also mentioned that Vacation Home Watch, which is a private category that cannot be viewed by the public, would be added to the website next week. I don't know if that ever happened. He stated that other categories will be added. Did we add that?
We get a lot of that, yes, sir.
Okay, good. The meeting adjourned. The members that were at that meeting on November the 7th were David Armstrong, at the time COO, Leroy Lawler Jr. for Ward 3, Colin Krieger for Ward 5, Doris Blewett, who is the chief's assistant, right, secretary, is that right? Yeah. And then Captain Rick Higgins from the patrol division, and Joe Dillon. That was the last meeting. One of the first ones I have is from October the 6th, 2016, but I don't know if that's the... So, here's where we are on that. The council is going to review whether to, because the council created it, it'll be up to them whether to continue it. The committee that visited with us last night, which I appreciate them all coming out, has asked to have a meeting with me and the chief and Jamie and others to talk about the form, keeping the committee going. This last vote that I found in this meeting said that they continued as ad hoc, as need basis, which kind of is what they've been doing. Where I come down on this, and the reason I was looking at for the minutes, is I have not seen anything that put parameters on this committee or gave a outline of what they were created for and what their purpose is. And I think we need those. I am a huge proponent of citizen involvement. I think, and I have said this before, that I think that citizen involvement is the backbone of city government, and the more activity we have from our citizens, the better our communities will be. I'm always encouraging people to get involved. So I, for one, think a committee like this could be very beneficial because, as they mentioned last night, that sometimes they can bring information to the police department that they may not have. We often hear of our officers saying that they need more input and stuff from the committee. But I will say that I think, as Vice Mayor Mickens pointed out last night, we do have the Civil Service Commission, which people can come to as a way of knowing what's going on with the police department too. But as some of them said last night, that they think that a committee like this would even enhance that more. So I think we're at a point where it would be good to have a discussion to determine whether we need a committee like this, and what is their role and how they're selected, and how long do they serve. I haven't been able to find anything that puts, like for instance, our other boards that we appoint are voted on by the council. They have a 3 to 5 year term. So I think if we're going to have something that's significantly helpful for the police department, it needs to have criteria and boundaries on what. Somebody had said to me that maybe at one time they went into an executive session to discuss personnel issues. I don't think that's a good idea. I think personnel issues should be discussed by the elected officials and the employees of City Hall. I think if you're going into executive session and anybody is sitting in hearing stuff about, that's why we go into executive session for when we're dealing with personnel issues. So I don't think this board, if they were doing that kind of thing, I don't think that's not an appropriate, in my opinion, appropriate for them. But again, let me be clear on what I'm saying. I am in favor of, I'm always excited when citizens want to get involved and want to help. From what I have heard from the folks that were talking last night, that's what they're wanting to do, is to be involved and be helpful to the police department. And I think that's always a positive thing. I try to meet with as many citizens when I can to get their input. I think that's critical. So the council will be looking, and I believe Jamie's going to try to set up a meeting so we can kind of iron these things out. But I thought that was something that I would address today, because it was, on the front page today, I see, and I think y'all had a story about it last night, so I knew that was on a lot of people's minds. Was there anything else that we talked about last night that needs follow-up today, guys?
No.
Jamie says no.
Biggest thing we had.
Shut it down, Mayor.
Biggest thing we had was a city
Yes, we did have the vehicle use policy. That was, thank you, Jamie. And by the way, she's still celebrating her birthday today. If y'all didn't have a chance to wish Jamie a happy birthday yesterday, she's 25 and holding, and would appreciate any kind wishes you would like to send her way. Yes, we did. For a long time, and that would have been something for Jeff. Maybe that's why Jeff didn't want to come. I don't know. No, Jeff was doing something else. I'm kidding. The vehicle policy that we voted on last night was something that the city has needed for quite some time, and Jeff has been concerned as our city attorney that we've not had one. So we moved forward on putting one together. Basically what it is, in a nutshell, is that those of us who have city vehicles to use for work, unless we are designated as emergency to take the vehicles home to jump up in the middle of the night to go out, if you're using it for anything other than work, then that's taxable income. That's basically a benefit if you're using it, your car for that. I mean, I'm so paranoid about it at times, like yesterday when I was down in the mayor of Mobile, down at the farmer's market looking at some stuff. I decided I want something to drink, so I walked up to River Hill instead of driving the car up there. So we just, these are not rules that we put in place. This is the federal government. There's some concern from our guys in Public Works. We have 2 people that take them home there because they are on call, and they are not from federal code. They are not considered emergency responders, which the reason they take them home is because they would be responding in case of emergency. So that's where the concern is, but right now what we're doing is we're just getting a policy in place. Is what we voted on last night as far as how we deal with public work, the 2 people in Public Works that take their vehicles home. It is what it is right now as far as the federal law, but there's obviously a lot of concern there. We've been checking with other municipalities to see what they're doing and how that works. So we're going to continue to follow up on that until we can have a solid answer on that. Is that about right, guys? Did I summarize that well?
Basically, you're talking about police officers, fire department, first responders.
Yeah, that's it, basically, fire and police. I feel like I'm on call 24/7. I don't know why I can't take the Mayor Mobile home, but I don't. I have taken it home if I'm leaving early the next morning to go out of town on a trip or something, so I don't have to drive back up here. And basically, you're not supposed to be stopping and getting food or doing running errands in a city-owned vehicle. And I think that's all that we had from last night. It was a very short, nice meeting overall.
Do you know about how many people have taken vehicles?
It would be, not all the police officers have a take-home. And I'm not sure about the fire. We can get that number. That's a good question. We can also tell you how many cars how many are assigned to the mayor and employees. I have one. Jamie has one. They have one for
Community outreach, the planning office. We have 2 Public Works, 2 in the garage,
one at 2 at the Trotter.
2 at the Trotter. Parks has a van, maybe 3 other vehicles. So
Yeah.
it's burning.
But those people don't take their vehicles home.
No.
No. George has one.
Yes, but it's not take home. There are only 3 people outside of police and fire who are, who we consider emergency
They're taking
responders,
home.
but the federal government doesn't.
Yeah, and it's the 2 folks at Public Works and,
I'm sorry, it's 4, 2 in Public Works and 2 in the garage.
okay. And then we can get we can find that number, I think, on the others. Take a little digging, but that's a good question.
And the 2 in Public Works and 2 in garage, they just take theirs home in case there's some kind of emergency or disaster, so they can roll out to help.
Yes.
Mhm.
Are you still planning paving town halls?
Yes, the first one is
Thursday?
this Thursday.
At 5 o'clock.
Thank you for asking that, so we can remind people. Thursday at 5,
Downstairs.
downstairs of the Trotter.
Can you talk about that just a little about, you know, what you would like people to do who attend and kind of what you're looking to come out of this with?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Brian. Thank you. I should have remembered to remind everybody because this is important. You know, one of the biggest areas that we hear concerns and complaints from citizens is the potholes in the road and the conditions of our streets. I talked about this at maybe the last press conference. And it is a real concern, and I understand everybody's concerns because I bounce over them as well. And I said this the last time, I'm going to say it again, this is not a unique problem for Columbus. You see it all over the state. As I said, I think at the last meeting recently when I went to check on my mother who lives in Ocean Springs, all the way down and back, I looked as much as I can in all the cities that were going down there, and they have the same situations that we do. It's a terrible issue that if we could find a solid solution to, we'd be the most popular people in the world. We finished and one of the reasons is some of the roads that we have within the city that we've taken in over time through annexation were poorly built originally. And so when you're piling asphalt on top of asphalt on top of asphalt, you're having more issues because they were never properly constructed. In areas of the city, more roads, some roads are more heavily traveled than others in particular wards, and that's where you see more. Columbus is 40% of our city is in a flood zone. So we have a lot of standing water in the city, and as our city engineer said, that is the worst enemy of asphalt. So a lot of what we do, and also because cities our size don't have a lot of resources to allocate for roads, we end up doing what they did prior as I was coming into office, had to take out bond money to pave roads that we just recently finished last summer, I think. We had about $400,000 left over from that. And we didn't immediately use that money because the way we determine the roads is that we have our city engineers who are experts in this area assess all the roads within the city and prioritize them on, need, which ones are in the worst shape, which ones could be most dangerous, that type of thing. And once they do those, they divide them into the wards. And then the city council members look at their ward, and they have the authority to be able to move some around if they need to, if they think others are higher priorities for certain reasons or something that the engineers didn't take into account. They can, rank them. And the way it worked the last time was we completed all the roads that there was money for in the bond. Now, the problem with doing it with bonds like that is that, the debt is going to, go longer than the roads survive. So that's not an ideal way to do it, and we're hoping to move away from that eventually if we can begin to have more money set aside for capital issues, but that's a difficult thing to do too. But so now we have about 400,000 there. How much do we have in the?
About 3.7 million modernization tax.
Yeah, in our modernization tax, we have about did you say 6?
3.7.
7 million in that 400,000. But we also have, we just received the MDOT grant on 5th Street South that we're going to be working on soon. That's a little over $1 million project, and we have a 20% match on that. So some of that match is going to have to come from these funds. So that's what we want to do at the town hall meetings is give a good overview to the citizens about, where our roads are, where the engineers have set the priorities, what the council will be considering. And so I'm encouraging all the citizens who reach out or post on social media about the holes and potholes and stuff to come to these meetings. They will be streamed live, but it will be good if people could actually come and have a conversation, bring photographs, and so that we have a real exchange about, what we can and cannot do. The reason for these town halls is to try to be as transparent and get as much input from the citizens as we can. You know, we hear a lot and see a lot because of social media now. People can put all kind of things out, but sometimes it's hard to accurately explain what's going on. Like sometimes we'll say we're working on something else, and somebody will say, well, stop doing that and use that money to fix the roads. Well, we can't, because that money's not, it's not, you know, and when you're dealing with funds like this in the government, they're set aside for certain ways that we can spend. We can't just move something over because the roads are a bigger priority. So, and also it gives the citizens an opportunity to give us ideas on things that, you know, we might try to do as far as, you know, setting certain priorities for the roads and telling us about areas that we have missed, or the engineers have missed, that are very serious. And then also, you know, may bring to our attention some things that we did that we might try to do differently in the future, and how we select the roads and that kind of thing. So the first one is this Thursday at 5, and then the second one is the 28th at 5, both downstairs in the Trotter. So people have 2 opportunities to come out this week and next week, and it will be streamed live on our Facebook page.
People can submit questions on Facebook.
And they can submit questions on Facebook. But again, citizens, if you can come out, and I know it's not a convenient time for everybody, but if you can come out in person, that would be good. And bring your photos and whatever you have.
Mayor, do we have any ARPA money that we set aside to help with roads and anything? No.
The last money that we have set aside for ARPA is for flooding and watershed. The other areas that we used it for was premium pay, for the gym in East Columbus.
And
The Second Street, you know, the major issue we had down here, which could have been huge if that had gone bad. We could have affected our water in the city. And then the money that we gave to Light and Water for their project too. So none of that was set aside.
Funding, the sources that you're looking at for the paving is the 400,000 left over from that old bond, and then the use tax money.
Use tax money. Those are our 2 major areas that we have available for that.
Do you have any idea how long, ideally how long you'd like for this meeting to last, or is there a time limit?
No, I mean, we would like for it to, you know, as long as necessary. You know, when we did the town halls, we've done them for a couple things. We've done them, and I like to do them, and would like to see us do more. We did them for Probst Park. Didn't get a huge turnout, but we had several around the city. And then we also, along with that, we did surveys, and people, you know, we did have people come out, and we appreciate everybody that does. And then we've done it for our budget hearings. And we did one for the tiny house topic. So, you know, we're trying to do everything we can to be transparent on the topics, the work of the city, so that citizens can be involved. I've added this press conference when I came in to give the media time to follow up about the council meetings, and give me another time to talk about things going on in the city. We've added the work session, which is the Thursday before the Tuesday meeting, so that we can talk openly with the council and with department heads about issues going on in the city that we're dealing with. Citizens can come to those and give us input. And then, of course, the council meetings are open. Any meeting that we have, there's a quorum, or any meeting that's going on with our committees that we appoint in the city, all those are open to the public. And so many times I hear from people that say, I just don't know what's going on. And they say they don't read the paper, they don't watch TV, they're not on social media. And so, you know, the next thing to do is to come to the meetings that we have. I've joked with people, I said, you know, you're trying to get to heaven, so you're going in the church door. If you want your city to be running correctly, you better come in the city hall door and participate, right? Because I've talked to some prayer breakfast folks sometimes, and I always joke with them about that. So, anything else? I was thinking not to go so many times. I listen to these things and I stumble through and say and I was just sat here doing that again, guys. Y'all need to work with me on that. It's very annoying when you go back and listen, so I apologize that Anything else? All right, thanks everybody. Have a good